Hey y'all, it's me, Brianna J, and I'm back. 28 Days of Black Literature, Black Excellence, Black Magic, Black Thought, Black Theory, all things in celebration of Black History Month. If you've been enjoying the series so far, thank you so much. I'm glad to see you all here. I am dropping like several videos today, so catch up on all of them. Catch up on all of them. I'm just making up for the weekend and making up for being out. Hope you guys enjoyed the Super Bowl. Hope you guys enjoyed all of that. If you're new here, make sure you smash the subscribe button. And if you are a new follower, thank you so much for smashing it. Appreciate you so much. We're at like 914 subscribers now. I think that when I get to 1,000, I can actually monetize the page. Well, I still need some more. Anyway, look, it's a process with YouTube, but I thank you guys for doing your part to make it happen for me. I do seriously appreciate it. Yeah, let's get right into it. Today, I was just like, what am I gonna come to them about? Like, I didn't want to read anything too long, but I also wanted to implore some new ideas. So I'm reading from International Journal of African Studies. This is actually from a conference they do every year called the National Conference of Black Studies. And I actually participated in that conference. And I believe when I participated, the day I participated, we recorded it. And that's one of my first videos on YouTube. So that's kind of exciting. But we're going to be reading from another scholar. His name was James B. Stewart, and he pretty much wrote a little bit about Du Bois's idea about what Black culture will look like in the future, and he kind of expounded on like an analysis of it. So we're going to see what his thoughts of what this analysis is like. So let's get into it. So it says Du Bois in the future of economic inequality, globalized consumption, and globalized cultural production. It says street crime, targeted surveillance, and mass incarceration are absent from W.E.B. Du Bois's fictional New York City of 2150. Economics play a major role in the absence of these vices. Past problems associated with income security and inequality have been solved. Du Bois's protagonist discovers all of the manual toil is shared by the brain workers. And Indigent tells him all sorts of incomes exist. But the great big incomes that are unspendable and the very little income that starve us have disappeared. We have abolished waste and poverty, but between these we have extraordinary diversity. At present, not only income and wealth inequality, but also poverty rates are trending in the opposite direction of what Du Bois fictionalized in 1950. The absence of viable employment opportunities accounts for much of today's trend. Once again, a comparison of past and present data is illustrative. From 1970 to 2011, the median income of black men improved relative to that of white men by 10 percentage points, 69% versus 79%. However, most of this improvement occurred in the earlier years. The ratio was virtually unchanged from 2000 to 2011. The pattern of change was similar for black women. They gained 9 percentage points from 1970 to 2011. But as was the case for men, the ratio was virtually unchanged from 2000 to 2011. These data suggest that progress toward income equalization has stalled. Moreover, reduction in differentials between the earnings of men and women have slowed. Black women in 1970 earned 68% as much as men. By 2011, this figure had improved to 85%, or the same level as in 1990. For whites, in contrast to comparable 1970 to 2011, values were 58 and 75%, respectively. The 2011 measure was only a slight gain over the 73% figure in 2000. These aggregate figures mask significant variations in earnings across occupation. Racial disparities in earnings and differences in racial occupational distributions widen these variations. The trajectory of wealth differentials is even more discouraging for Black Americans. In 2005, or before the countrywide recession, the median net worth of whites was 134,992, whereas the net worth of blacks was 13,124. The recession caused the median net worth of whites to fall just over 113,000 1,049 in 2010. However, the median net worth for blacks plummeted to 5,677. Such differences in net worth reflect varying levels of economic opportunity, have a profound impact on consumption and consumption options in the global age. While the globalization of consumer products has generally benefited inner city and suburban residents in the USA, consumption and consumption options have been uneven across inner cities and suburbs. That unevenness has contributed to what some researchers would consider a reversal of the relative fortunes of inner cities and suburbs. Paul Grogan and Tony Procio insist that suburban markets are increasingly saturated, and many consumers are beginning to chafe at the predictable, arid environment of suburban shopping plazas and malls. Grogan and Procio also insist that upscale retailers are returning to cities primarily to be near downtowns. This occurrence is one element of a broader effort to target a higher income client who has taken up residence in an inner city mixed income, often gentrified neighborhood, or accordingly, the typical client is white. As demographic transitions accelerate in desirable inner city neighborhoods, there is a shift towards the upscale entertainment and cultural fare. Notably, the cultural production encountered by the protagonist of AD 2150 and his reaction, AD 2150, and his reaction to it clearly reflect W.E.B. Du Bois's own patrician orientation and preference for European modalities. As the protagonist travels by subway to Harlem during the morning hours, he takes note approvingly of the fact that instead of advertisements in the corners, there were excellent selections from Shakespeare, Browning, and Smith. At the same time, though, he expresses appreciation for black music. While attending a concert later in the day, he relates, "I heard some excellent music. Much of it was what I would call Negro music, but the program said it was American." The characteristics of this music are left to the imagination of the reader, but could really very well be jazz, blues, or fusion influenced by Afro-Caribbean as Afro-American beats, rhythms, and melodies. This fusion comprises the building block of hip-hop, the most dominant black music genre of the late 20th century and the early 21st century. With non-black paid consumption of hip-hop music growing exceptionally, this genre is likely to retain its dominance through the foreseeable future. Hip-hop has clearly emerged as the primary vehicle for self-expression among young African Americans and increasingly by marginalized youth of every ancestry group around the world. In the USA, however, disagreements about various representations conveyed through hip-hop have exacerbated tensions between leading African American activists of the 1960s and the contemporary counterparts. These disagreements have contributed to diminished political efficacy among African Americans in the face of intensifying economic, political, and social problems. Beyond the racy language, drug use, rampant criminality frequently associated with hip-hop, gender dynamics have been a contested issue, just as they were in earlier social movements. Vanguard hip-hop artists, especially rappers, often delegated women to subordinate roles. In time, though, female artists began to challenge male dominance. In so doing, they helped to introduce a generation of African American women to a new feminism. How women are depicted in hip-hop videos, live shows, and other spaces is the latest frontier. Some new feminists detest the images of scantily clad and routinely voluptuous women dancing, provocatively or simply featured as eye candy. Other new feminists see these women as independent thinkers who make conscious decisions to embrace, flaunt, and even profit from their physical attributes. Just as athletes, models, and scores of other more socially accepted professionals do. Here too, the word and world of W.E.B. Du Bois's protagonist in 82-150 apply. The individualization of female clothing amazes him. 75 years ago, he remarks, no woman would dare to appear on the streets whose dress did not conform to her neighbors as near as was physically possible and even nearer. Du Bois's observation, as expressed by the protagonist's remark, is applicable to today in 2016 as it was in 1950 when Du Bois penned AD 2150. All right. Well, that's just a little bit to think about. I personally really thought it was very thoughtful to consider the world Du Bois imagines and how it contrasts to our reality today. I mean, yeah, great analysis. The wage gap remains, poverty remains, gentrification is here. We do see a bit of, some things change, some things remain the same, but progress has been made. Tell me what you guys think. Are we closer to, are we realizing what W.E.B. Du Bois was predicting, or are we way off target? Let me know, and let me know if you want to hear more from this essay because it's pretty long. Anyway, I'll be back with another video shortly.